Imagine you are playing against a strong player who always plays pawn to d4 on the first move. They know everything about the queen's pawn game. There's nothing much you can do. You can't play the semi-Slav. They know it already. You can't play the dash. They know that too. You can't play the normal Slav defense. They seem to have experience with that. But see, there's another opening that seems to take most d4 players out of their comfort zone. This time it's not knight c6 or the Mike Pest. It is the Polish defense. With this move, you are going to stop most Queen's Gambit players. For example, if c4, you can just take. That will just be a free pawn and you'll be up a pawn for the rest of the game. In most cases, white plays pawn to e4. They go back to the e4 opening, and this is where you can play bishop b7, telling your opponent that take my useless flank pawn and I will take your important central pawn. In chess, central pawns really matter. But you see, what I like doing in bullet and blitz most of the times is just playing knight f6, attacking this pawn like that. Even though this is dubious, say if white plays pawn to e5, you simply go knight d5, transposing the game back to the allies defense without your opponents even realizing it. Point is, if they take on b5, what appeared to be a free pawn, you give them another pawn. This is called the O'Sullivan Gambit, allies defense. Point is, if they take your second pawn, now you have queen a5 check, and you might win that bishop like this after pawn takes and queen takes b5. Pop. I'm not going to repeat content by doing what other content creators do, presenting the same things over and over in a different way. I don't do that. So what I'm going to do is suggesting that you watch the video that has popped up in the card above if you really want to know more about the O'Sullivan Gambit. And I'm going to leave the link to that video in the comment section down below, maybe, if you want to learn more about the O'Sullivan Gambit. But anyways, the Polish defense can be very awesome and deceiving. Most people don't know how to play against this, so just play pawn to b5 to confuse them, and bishop b7 in a rated tournament. And if bishop d3, you don't go pawn to f5 like an amateur. No, again, you can play pawn to c5 here. That's the beauty, because if pawn takes, you simply have e6 and you're going to get back that pawn whether white likes it or not. Moves like pawn to b4 mean nothing due to pawn to a5. If they continue trying to defend that, you just take, pop, and then go queen f6. You'll probably win a free piece. Look at that, free bishop or free knight. So that's another trap that is found in the Polish defense. You can rely on this pawn to c5 move all the time. If white plays bishop d3, just go c5. That's okay. You don't even need to play knight f6. They are used to these things. Before I play a game, let me just cement something here. Again, after pawn to c5, if white continues with c3, you can play c4. It's not much of a stretch, but what I recommend is just to go e6, fast development. After knight f3, this is when you can go c4. If bishop c2, you go knight f6, double attacking this pawn. They play pawn to e5 most of the times. Now you go knight d5, kind of the allies defense or the improved French if you think about it. They may play knight bd2, but you have moves like bishop e7, queen c7, castle shot, h6, even pawn to d6 here works. Like I would play this move any day, anytime. Point is, I just want to take, for example, if they castle shot, I add more sword to the wound, say rook e1, add more sword to the wound, still pressurizing the e5 pawn. And maybe this time if they take, I'm happy because I take back with tempo. And probably on the next move, play bishop e7. After something, I go h6. If queen h5, just an example, I even castle shot. This is safe for me. It looks like there's something going on the king side, but nope. The knight is just under attack if you think about it. If you don't believe me, let's just say h4 is played. Even though the best move is to play knight 5 f6 in this position, I'll just take. Yeah, like h takes g5 works because there's just nothing going on. Once again, if this hopping to checkmate, this is where you play knight 7 f6, stopping the checkmate and also attacking the queen. The queen must go back probably to e2, and then you continue playing normal chess. Bishop d6, there's just nothing going on there. Open up the position, involve your other rooks. Play bishop a4 maybe to stop everything and take back with your queen or your knight. Anyway, here's another secret, you guys. For those of you who like playing the Caro-Kann advanced variation, you can also achieve that in our simple defense. Let me show you. After white plays d4, you go c6, c4, b5, and let's just say white plays pawn to e3, you take, and then bishop takes, then you go d5, and bishop d3. If you don't want to play the semi-Slav structure with the immediate pawn to e6, go knight to f6 first, and this is when you're going to see your opponents playing knight to f3, the top played move in the Lichess database, and only then do you develop your light squared bishop like this. How cool is that, you guys? In the normal queen pawn game, we avoid developing our light squared bishop early because it leaves our b7 pawn weak. For example, white usually plays queen b3 once you move your light squared bishop, attacking the undefended pawn and also targeting the d5 pawn. But note in this case, you don't have a weak pawn on b7 and your d5 pawn is well defended. So this can also be thought of as an improved Caro-Kann defense. With this new Polish strategy, we are trying to introduce a whole new game that will take most d4 players out of their comfort zone, period. There are times when white to try to stick to the actual queen's pawn game that they know instead of going e4. For example, after d4, c6, c4, or knight to f3, that will still come. You go pawn to b5, cb, cb, and then instead of playing pawn to e4, they just go knight to f3 just to avoid things. So sticking to your plan, you can still go bishop b7, but even knight to f6 is not much of a stretch. So let's just say bishop b7, and then they play pawn to e3 because that's what they like doing, simply attacking your pawn. Well, in these kinds of lines, though a6 is playable, I like gaining more central space with a move pawn to b4, period. Just stopping knight c3 or knight a3 somehow, and just in case white plays a3, you simply go pawn to e6. Don't complicate stuff. Let them take, you take back, and this is when they play knight c3. If bishop d2, you just exchange bishops and continue developing. But the thing is, you just continue developing towards the center of the board. And let's say after bishop d3, you can simply castle short. And let's say they castle short as well. Since there's nothing that is happening on the king side, and I mean, there's nothing that you can literally do on this side of the board, you try to buy time on the other side of the board. The other move that doesn't look cool, but still playable is pawn to d5, by the way, even if your light squared bishop is behind. Why? Because you have intentions to go knight e4 and replace your pawn on e4, supported by your light squared bishop. This is very much playable, by the way. The idea is not to checkmate an opponent very quickly, but just to have a balanced game. If queen c2 is played, feel free to take. If queen e2, for example, this is where you can even play pawn to d5, period. That's what I was talking about. And this makes a lot of sense, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see how that works. Let's say bishop d2, because what else? Just making some moves. Now you go knight e4. You see what I was talking about. The game is still equal. If they take, that'll be a blunder because you can simply take back with your pawn and fork these two pieces. Bishop takes doesn't do a thing because your capture comes with an attack on the queen, so white has to attend to that, and then you take that free bishop. So they are not going to do that. And so after knight e4, it's not a good idea for white to take. But let's say white takes with a bishop. How about that? Because they didn't like that pressure. Again, you can just take back. Yep. So the goal is to support this pawn with your light squared bishop. In the near future, you intend to go f5, then f4. Just destroy the king side completely. You put your light squared bishop on d5, by the way. That's the whole idea of bishop b7, pawn to d5, and knight e4. You simply want to replace your d5 pawn with your light squared bishop, period. So again, this is for typical d4 players who try to solidify things. And after pawn to b5, there are people who won't just take this. They'll try as much as possible to complicate stuff. For example, you may see them move pawn to e3 here, but you can just take, allowing them to take. And then you now go back to your semi-Slav ideas where you put your center pawns on light squares, creating this little triangle. And by the way, this will now be an improved semi-Slav in that it'll be easier for you to develop your light squared bishop as well as your queen's knight. Now, let me show you one brilliant way of fighting this knight here. Remember, this knight is usually defended by the d pawn. So the secret here is to go c5 whenever you see this. Given a chance, by the way, to make the e5 square weaker. For example, they can go pawn to f4, it doesn't matter, and then you can take. That's all. So cd is okay. Let them take. This doesn't just look to be right. You can even play knight bd7 here, trying to fight this. Knight bd7, then go queen b6. So let's say bishop e3, then you go bishop b7. Again, why putting your light squared bishop behind your d pawn? There is this idea that we want to play. Let's say rook c1, then you go knight e4. This is a very brilliant idea, guys. Next, you just want to play pawn to f5, given a chance, or take. If knight takes, well and good. Let's say bishop b5. Now you go knight to f6 because you have a possibility to put your knight on d5 and continue playing chess. I intend to do something like this against any random opponent on chess, and let's hope that's how the game will go. Right. By the way you support this channel is by joining one of our membership tiers on Patreon, or simply buying my courses at www.KaspaChess.com or on my Patreon page. That really helps. Here we have a game, pawn to d4 on the first move. Why can't I play? Oh, this time let me try the Polish defense. My opponent just blazed out c4, so that's just a free pawn. This is what you do to people who like pre-moving anyhow, auto pre-movers. Now let me take my time here. Should I give them that pawn or just hold? Should I hold on to my extra pawn? Let me go bishop b7 here, so that if white takes, okay, they've done the right thing, not taking. I think I can hold on to my pawn like this. That's just an extra pawn. This is how you punish pre-movers. So pawn to b3. If I take, I'm just going to be up a pawn for good, I guess. But you see, CB only allows white to activate their queen somehow. So why can't I just develop my bishop to b4? Because that comes with a clean attack. It's a pin. Bishop b2. I think let me take here on f4. And now we see bishop takes c4. This is too late, I guess. I can just develop my knight. Nothing much to do. Nothing going on. NGO. That's the version of NGO according to me. It just means nothing going on. Don't take that serious. I'm just joking. Although I meant what I said. Anyway, a3, bishop takes, and castle shot. Nothing much going on. Once again. Why am I like this? Knight c6. Point is, I just want to take this other pawn. By the way, I'm still up a pawn with this move, knight takes. This is exactly how you punish pre-movers. Let's hold on to my knight. I'm not giving up any material. Besides, I should have taken here. My opponent is playing so fast while they are making 0 moves. Or maybe they are just frustrated. Or they are trying to win on time. By the way, I can take on g2 now. They are losing the rook. Yeah, at this point, my opponent is just... Anyway, so that was the Polish defense for you guys. This is another weapon you can use to surprise d4 players, especially those who just like playing the Queen's Gambit all the time, like the way my opponent showed in this game. He's a 23 rated player, by the way. Wondered why he was, playing like that. Right, by the way, you can check out my courses at www.KaspaChess.com or on my Patreon page. That's how you support this channel, by the way. I don't ask for donations or free money. So the way you support this channel is by joining one of our membership tiers on Patreon or simply buying my courses. That really helps.